Welcome back to another episode of Al's Vintage Toy Trains. Hope you're having a great day. So today we're going to talk about Lionel's original Mickey Mouse hand car. This was a collaboration between Walt Disney and the Lionel Corporation that started back in 1934. And this is all during the depths of the Depression. So what I'd like to do is talk about these hand cars and give you a little more information about them, or at least as much as I could dig up and find out. And so sit back and enjoy. So the Great Depression took its toll on Lionel in the early 1930s, and by May 7th, 1934, Lionel would go into receivership in order to avoid bankruptcy. 2 months later, a representative from Disney went to the Lionel Corporation with an idea about licensing, allowing Lionel to manufacture mechanically and electrically propelled Mickey Mouse toys. From this agreement, the Lionel number 1100 Mickey Mouse handcar was born. The wind-up handcar was produced, primarily in red, running along a circular 2-rail O-gauge track and clanging a bell as it moved along. Within the later months of 1934, over 253,000 of these handcars were sold without even being in the Lionel catalog. Only a brochure would be used to advertise the new item during the first year. The $1 toy was rumored to have saved Lionel, who was well known for their elaborate electric toy trains at the time, like the famous and very expensive Blue Comet set that sold for $70. The Mickey Mouse handcar was affordable for many Depression-era families, and it provided a lot of play value for the money. It was also much more affordable than, say, even an entry-level train set running at about $7 or $8 at the time. Lionel paid its debts in full by the end of 1934 and officially came out of receivership by January of 1935. The inspiration for the handcar idea came from a Disney Presents cartoon called Mickey's Choo Choo that came out in September of 1929. Note that Mickey Mouse was first introduced to the public in November of 1928 with the cartoon short called Steamboat Willie, and the cartoon character soon became a beloved household name from there. Here's an excerpt from Mickey's Choo Choo cartoon. So, I think you will agree that the Mickey Mouse handcar idea came from the video that we just watched. So, the red body version of the Mickey Mouse car is the very common version. Not that these are common to find, but that's the one that most of them were made with. The apple green is much harder to find than the red. The orange would even be much harder to find than even the green. And then the maroon one is the one that's extremely rare. It's not even listed in the Greenberg's Pocket Price Guide. So we've got the 3 versions that you see here, the green, the orange on the right, and then the maroon in the middle. Here we have a brochure that would have gone out to the dealers, and it says Toy Sensation of 1934. And then it gives you a good description of the Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse hand car and how it works. And just to the right of the figures, there's a little loop of track, and it mentions to the dealers that they can buy a dozen of these for $8.40. So this is one of the first brochures that you see of the handcar. So here we have the 1935 brochure that went out to the dealers, and you'll note that we have 2 handcars this time. So new for 1935 was the Santa Claus handcar, which had a little Mickey Mouse in his bag in the back. And for the second year, we have Mickey and Minnie Mouse again, the number 1100. And what's unique at the bottom here are the 2 action displays, which says to make 'em go faster. And you'll note that the one on the left is Mickey Mouse. He's got a little arm that moves, and it points to a hand car that sits on a piece of track by his finger. And then the base is actually 36 inches in diameter, and that base houses the track that goes around the Mickey display. So that's the one on the left, but what's really unique is the Donald Duck one on the right. And note that Donald Duck handcar did not come out until 1936. So again, this is a 1935 brochure, and here they are already starting to advertise the Donald Duck, but Donald Duck wasn't cataloged as yet. So he would be coming out in 1936. So this brochure might have been a little premature on the Donald Duck, but he wasn't cataloged until 1936. Now we're just going to briefly talk about some of the other handcars that Lionel made, starting with this one. This is the Peter Rabbit handcar, number 1103. This is not a Disney licensed car by any means, but Lionel took advantage of the mechanism in the base that's already there to have something that would come out at Easter. So this was only in a brochure and never in the actual catalogs that Lionel produced. So this is the Peter Rabbit. I'm not sure of any variations of this particular handcar, and we'll move on to the next. Here we have the number 1105 Santa handcar, and it's got a little Mickey Mouse with his face poking out of the bag on Santa's back. And note there are two major variations here. We've got the common red base unit, and then the harder to find would be the apple green. And we're going to look at the catalogs here in a bit, but in the 1935 catalog it shows it as an apple green, and in the 1936 catalog it shows it as a red base type unit. So it was cataloged for 1935 and 1936. And there's also another very hard to find variation that doesn't have any reference to Disney character. So the Santa handcar does not have a Mickey Mouse at all on his back. And there's no reference to Disney on the box. And those were shipped overseas, I believe, to Europe. So those are extremely hard to find. So that would actually be the third variation. Here we have the last of the four handcars. So this is the Donald Duck handcar, number 1107, and it was cataloged in 1936 and 1937. And there's three major variations. So there's one with a white doghouse and a red roof. Another one would be a white doghouse with a green roof. And then the one that's very hard to find is a orange doghouse with a green roof. So again, 1936 and 1937. And Lionel would stop making handcars after 1937. So let's go ahead and start with the Lionel catalogs. And I figured we would start with the 1933 catalog, only because it's the last time that Lionel would mention the Ives name. At the top, you can read, Lionel Ives wind-up trains with headlight, bell, and brake. In the first paragraph, it states, Lionel has bought the Ives Corporation. Out of this combination of patents, skill, and experience come the finest and most beautiful mechanical trains ever conceived. So I just wanted to kind of give you a starting point there with the mechanical trains that Lionel was actually cataloging, actually probably since 1929. Note that Lionel did buy out the Ives Corporation back in July of 1928, and so they owned the patents and everything else to continue making mechanical trains. So this is 1933. Here we have the 1934 catalog, and note that the Ives name is no longer in the catalog for the mechanical trains. So it just says wind-up trains with powerful motor, headlight, bell, and brake. And then Lionel would give a nice sketch or detail of the Lionel mechanical motors with all the illustrated highlight points. And so what you don't see is the Mickey Mouse handcar. So it was not cataloged in 1934. And the only way you would find out about that was through the brochure that Lionel pushed out to all their dealers. And they may have actually been in some of the magazines as advertisements as well. But Lionel advertised the Lionel Mickey Mouse handcar for $1. So just wanted to show you the 34 catalog. So now we're looking at the 1935 catalog. And in my opinion, this is one of the most beautiful pages in the 1935 catalog. Just look at all the artwork and the color in displaying the Disney items that Lionel, had their license now to do. And in the lower left, we've got the Mickey Mini handcar, number 1100 for $1. And note this is the first time that it shows up in a Lionel catalog. This is also the introductory year for the Santa Claus car, the number 1105. It too is also priced at $1. And the Disney character there is Mickey Mouse hiding in Santa's bag. And note that the catalog shows this with a green base unit, where the brochure in 1935 showed it in red. So this is probably the first time that apple green shows up in any of the mechanical hand cars, and this may also be the start of when Lionel may have produced some of the green-based Mickey cars. So, not much information on when the colors showed up or where, but I'm assuming the green came out because the bases are identical between the Mickey and Minnie hand car and the Santa hand car. And then the absolutely beautiful Mickey Mouse circus train outfit and the lithographed cars. You've got Mickey there in the tender, and this is actually kind of unique in that he's actually stoking, or appears to be stoking, the engine with coal. And that comes with a special track that has a little catch for the pin that comes out of that tender, and it hits those little detents in the track and causes him to lift up the shovel. Really unique, and a set I would absolutely love to own. So now we're looking at the 1936 catalog, and you see that we have 3 of the hand cars now in the catalog. At the top, and new for 1936, is the number 1107 Donald Duck rail card. And this goes for $1.25, so it's 25 cents more than the other 2, probably because of the added work for the house. We also have the 1100 Mickey Mouse continuing, and we also have the red Santa car, 1105. Note that it's in red now versus the previous catalog year when it was shown in green. So here we're looking at the last year that Lionel cataloged their hand cars, and we're down to 2. So we've got the 1107 Donald Duck rail car for $1.25 again, as well as the number 1100 Mickey Mouse hand car. And so these would be the last 2 that Lionel would catalog. Lionel would actually drop the licensing agreement after 1937. And note, this is a time period where Lionel was really getting into scale detailed trains. In 1937, we had the Scale Hudson come out. By 1938, Lionel would drop everything that had to do with mechanical trains, as well as anything to do with Disney at that point in the pre-war period. So that's it for the catalogs. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the hand car itself. So this is the apple green base unit version. As we know, red was the common version, and most of these came with a red base unit. Some had this apple green, not many. There's also an orange variation out there, and that one is quite scarce, more so than the green. And then there is one that is not even listed in the Greenberg's Pocket Guide for Lionel, and that's the maroon version. And I think only a handful of those were actually made. But what's kind of unique is I cannot find any information out there of when, where, and why the different base colors. I can only assume the green base is interchangeable with the one that we saw in the catalog for 1935 with the Santa Claus unit. So maybe Lionel interchanged the green ones that were available when red wasn't, and vice versa. Honestly, don't know. And as far as the orange and the maroon versions, I couldn't tell you that either. So if anybody out there actually knows, I would appreciate a comment on that. So, okay, let's go ahead and take a closer look. So we've got the little placard sign on the side that says Mickey Mouse hand car. We've got the copyright Walt Disney on there, right in between the Mickey Mouse and hand car. And then at the bottom it says number 1100, the Lionel Corporation, New York, made in the U.S. of America. Notice the different shoes. So Mickey's got his bigger rounded shoes, and Minnie has a smaller pointed version of the shoes. Mickey is wearing red shorts. You can see his tail here. Minnie has a green skirt. She's also wearing a wooden red hat. And the material is kind of a composite material. The painted detail is quite nice on this example. And there's Mickey. And it's kind of amazing that it survived all of the years. And I'm thinking only because they probably lost the key at some point. So I don't have an original key to go with this. It's most likely going to be displayed on one of my shelves. I wouldn't really want to run this anyway because of the age and the tenderness of the characters that are on it. That's what it looks like underneath. And that's where you would wind it up. And just pretty amazing that this one survived in the condition that it's in. I don't honestly know if it works. Let's go ahead and take a look at the box. And there it is. Lionel Mickey Mouse handcar, made by the Lionel Corporation, New York. The depiction shows red as far as Mickey's pants and Minnie's skirts. I've got the copyright Walt Disney in the lower left. Got Lionel City on the station in the background, and the 2-rail track that you see. Pretty neat artwork. Here's taking a look at the side. Again, Lionel City. Got the wires in the background. Kind of curious who actually did the artwork, but I'm assuming it would have been Disney that did the artworks for this. And there it is, Lionel number 1100. And the other sides are identical, so the opposite ends match each other. And I don't know if this actually came with an insert or not. I haven't seen a photo of any with inserts. It's basically a staple, 4 staples in each of the corners. 1 in each corner. So be curious to see if anybody has ever seen an insert, so leave a comment if you have. And if there's any other information that I left out. Let's take a look at the track. It's just a simplistic 2-rail track. Lionel made obviously plenty of circular radius track. It's 0.27 in diameter. It's basically 0.27 track without a middle rail. In the catalog, Lionel actually sold straights to go with their other mechanical trains that they had, so it was possible to purchase a straight section of track if you wanted to add straight track to your loop and make it an oval. And again, I appreciate everybody watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I learned a lot by researching this little Mickey Mouse handcar. I would appreciate any comments again that you might have, any other additional information that people out there may have. Hope this was helpful to others. And again, this is Al, and thank you so much for watching.